Open the gates! Open the gates! This is Supreme Dylan. You're under arrest for murder. Look down at your chest. Look down at your chest.
My thoughts will be with the family, with Saul's dad.
This is indeed the honey trap, as a dad of 6 was killed over a fake Rolex. It is a shocking case of betrayal, forgery, and seduction. Sadly, social media cost him his life. What was the trap about, and who faked a Rolex? This is Solved Files, where crime stories are brought to your doorstep. What are you waiting for? Just hit the subscribe button for more fascinating and suspense-filled crime stories. Now let's get back into the story and uncover this mystery, the life and death of Saul Murray. Saul Murray, who was 33 years old and lived in Luton, had just recently relocated to a new apartment in Newtown. He posted a video of himself wearing what seemed to be 2 Rolex watches on Instagram, and on February 9th and 10th, 2022, a 36-year-old woman from Stratford, London, named Surpreet Dillian, contacted him. Meanwhile, Dillian made advances toward him by sending him voice notes and direct messages that were flirtatious and romantic.
When you did drink, you gotta have a drink with me though, right?
Yeah, I only drink like unless, only straight as well.
I drink rum, but I can fuck with Henny as well, not a problem. Alright, cool. Seeing as we're doing like weird questions, I've got one for you as well. Have you slept with a Asian, Italian, coolie girl before?
She managed to get him deeply involved in the conversation by gaining an understanding of his likes and dislikes. After that, they resumed their chat through WhatsApp, during which Dillian informed Murray that she would be in his neighborhood with one of her female friends and asked about the possibility of meeting up with him. Murray definitely didn't get any red flags at this point. He was cool with the lady he had just met online visiting him. Little did he know that things were about to take a terrifying turn. Apparently, he accepted, and she requested his house address, which he provided. On February 26, 2022, she and her friend hired a Mercedes A-Class and drove to Luton, arriving at his place at approximately 10 o'clock at night. In Murray's house, their arrival was seen by surveillance cameras. At approximately 2:30 in the morning, both women were observed wandering into the communal area of Murray's building. This occurred just a few hours later. One of the women had already departed, and the other woman, Surpreet Dillian, had remained at the property. She had merely come out, leaving Murray's door open with a broom. And the other woman who had left earlier had returned. What exactly are they planning, and what's the game behind this strange movement? Approximately 25 minutes later, 2 men entered the building through the communal door, which Dillian had left open the previous time. After 20 minutes, the women fled the building, while the 2 males followed closely behind them, with one of the men armed with a knife. Mr. Murray, on the other hand, was observed naked and went into the door of the communal area, at which point he collapsed and died. But what is actually going on? This case is getting more interesting. At the same time, a resident in the building discovered Mr. Murray lying on the ground when he returned from his night shift at approximately 5 in the morning. However, it was already too late, and so he immediately informed an ambulance, which promptly arrived at the location to pick up Murray's body without delay. The police quickly identified Dillian as one of the women who came to Mr. Murray's home, and also as the person who arranged to see him on the night of his death. This identification was made possible because the police thoroughly examined the CCTV footage of Mr. Murray's flat. Basically, Dillian had a lengthy criminal history, and the police later discovered that there were multiple allegations from other males indicating that they had met Dillian and that she had drugged and robbed them as well. After gathering all of these records, the police went to Dillian's house and informed her that she was being arrested for the murder of Saul Murray.
Supreme, this is Supreme Dylan. You're under arrest for murder. Look down at your chest. Look down at your chest.
After experiencing a panic attack, Dillian started hyperventilating and then burst into tears. But why did she kill him? Was there some kind of history between them? Or did she just enjoy making people suffer? Let's continue our investigations. The investigations of Murray's killing. Meanwhile, Temidayo Al, was identified as the second woman by the police after they recovered Dillian's phone and determined her identity by examining the chats and messages she had sent and received on her phone. While this was going on, she had a slightly different profile. She was far younger than Dylan. At 21, she had no criminal record, and she was a student at Coventry University. Temidayo was taken into custody after the police went to her student housing and did an inspection. During the initial police interview with Dillian, she made no comments during the entire process.
No comment. Leaving the door open for? No comment. Why are we leaving it open? No comment.
Temidayo did the same thing, except for the beginning of the interview, when she pled her innocence by stating that she did not know Mr. Murray and was simply a university student.
That I'm linked to any type of murder.
Yeah.
I don't know the poor soul, and I'm very gutted that he's dead. Honestly, I didn't murder him. I didn't harm him in any type of way. I'm honestly just an undergraduate student. I just wanted to get my degree.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that now.
Okay.
That's all I want to say.
Okay.
In addition, the police could track the connection between the two ladies, which went back 5 years ago, when there was footage of a raid on Dillian's Jamaican restaurant business. The police thought that the establishment was being used as a front for selling drugs. Upon examining the videos from the body cams that the police officers wore on that particular day, it became evident that Temidayo Ao was there during the raid. Furthermore, she was only 16 years old at the time, which raised questions about the charges of child grooming that were made against Dillian. In the course of the toxicology examination that was requested, it was discovered that Mr. Murray had been drugged with the date rape drug GHB. On the other hand, swabs of Mr. Murray's face and neck were taken, and the DNA of both Dylan and Temidayo was discovered, which suggests that there was some sexual contact between the deceased and both of the ladies on the night of the murder. In the moments leading up to Dylan putting the date rape drug GHB in Murray's drink, they shared a bottle of brandy. According to the allegations, the quantities of the substance that were used were not sufficient to render Murray unconscious. As a result, all left the property to go and get their other two accomplices. The authorities were also able to recover audio notes and other emails that were exchanged between Temidayo and Dylan. 2 days before they were supposed to meet the victim, they emailed each other that the watch shown in the Instagram video was old and likely not worth more than $3,500. The females laughed and complained about the watch's low value.
Nearly 25 years old. You probably get that in the shop for like 3.5. Because it's so old.
Bro, this taking the piss too much. I'm so upset. She means 25.
Eventually, both of the suspects were detained for a period of 24 hours, at which point the authorities were required to either release them or formally charge them with murder immediately. Dylan and Temidayo were called out of their cell by the police and informed that they would be charged with murder. This was in response to the considerable evidence against them and a referral to Child Protective Services, which returned with a recommendation to take criminal charges against the accused. In a video footage, Dylan called one of her children to explain that she would be out for an extended period to assist with an investigation. However, when asked if she was the subject of the investigation, she denied that she wasn't.
I'm just helping them, that's not true, okay? They're going to all be stopped, but let's sort it out with them, okay?
Meanwhile, Dylan and Temidayo had not disclosed the identities of the two men involved in the incident. However, the CCTV footage and additional research indicated that the two male suspects were driving a higher body vehicle. Finding the two male suspects, using the database for automatic number plate identification, law enforcement officials identified the vehicle as belonging to Cleon Brown, who was later taken into custody. By utilizing the telematics devices built into the hire car, law enforcement officers could view a comprehensive record of all the journeys taken while the vehicle was being driven. It was around an hour and a half after the murder had taken place when the device revealed that the vehicle had stopped at a petrol station in London on February 27, 2022 at 4:52 a.m. The surveillance tape from the gas station showed Cleon Brown at the petrol station, asking to use a vacuum and wandering around in his socks. It is possible that he was aware that the blood on his trainers could be traced back to him. Nevertheless, Cleon was called in for interrogation by the police and gave a no-comment interview, even though he nervously looked at his attorney when the police presented significant evidence against him during the interview. As a consequence of this, he was formally presented with charges of murder. After that, the police focused their attention on identifying the fourth suspect, considering the results of a cell site analysis performed on Cleon's phone. In addition, they indicated that he was communicating with a phone number that was not registered and another number that was registered to a female. This woman is Ikem Afia's partner, and he is well known to the police. Specifically, he was the most difficult to identify since he was the only person to use a burner form with a police record showing he had used aliases. Ironically enough, one of the identities he had supplied was Cleon Brown. This made it appear as though he was the most difficult to identify. Did he give the police a fake name? The dude is smart. In addition to that, he was the only person who turned off his phone for the whole night in question. Not only was Afia taken into custody, but he also participated in a no-comment interview. After conducting a check on the telematics of the Mercedes vehicle, the police stated that a car had visited a KFC 2 days before the murder. The CCTV cameras installed at the KFC, shown on both Brown and Afia, were essential evidence. Afia was observed wearing a coat that was similar to the one that the fourth male suspect, who was seen carrying the knife on the day of the murder, was seen wearing. Afia was released since the police did not have sufficient evidence to hold him for more than 24 hours, even though this was the case. The release was short on him as he was summoned back for questioning the following day. At that point, the police ordered the same monk hair jacket Afia had worn at a KFC, visited the KFC and the home of the deceased wearing the coat for police reconstruction purposes, mimicking Afia's movements in an attempt to strengthen their argument that it was the same coat. Merely 69 of these coats were ordered online in the UK, making it an extremely costly and unique piece of clothing. Among these, one was found to be associated with the residence of Afia's partner. Following that, Afia was charged with the crime of murder. Nevertheless, a 10-week trial started in November 2022. The confession of Surpreet Dillon. During the trial, Dillon and Temidayo accused both of the male suspects at the scene of the crime. They indicated that the male suspects were the ones who examined the property of the deceased upon entry and that they did not want to take part and fled immediately. While this was going on, Afia claimed that he attempted to remove the watch from Murray's wrist, but when Murray woke up, a fight began, and at that time, he stabbed Murray. Was all this because of a watch? Why didn't they just take the watch and run away? At the scene of the crime, there was evidence that suggested a struggle may have taken place. More so, it was evident that the GHB would have had a significant effect on Murray's system, to the point where it would have operated as a sedative, even though it would not have been sufficient to leave him unconscious. Eventually, Dillon admitted that she was responsible for the honey trap aspect of the case. She stated that she had done this to men at least 6 other times in the past. She did this because she needed to provide for her family, even though she had a closet full of designer clothes and a taste for life's finer things. She also stated that she had brought her fellow defendant, Temidayo, along with her on 4 of the 6 occasions in the past when she had drugged and robbed men. She stated that the Instagram photos of the 2 Rolex watches were behind her target to Saul Murray. It was now time for a decision to be made. During an interview, the primary police investigator in the case appeared to be experiencing some degree of emotional distress. She expressed her regret for Saul Murray's family, particularly his father, and expressed how much of a loss it was for Saul Murray to pass away in such a manner.
My thoughts will be with the family, with Saul's dad. He was the last person as the family to see him. They appear to have had quite a nice relationship. I think it's a massive loss.
The verdict. On January 10th, 2023, a decision was made about the investigation. Ikem Afia was convicted guilty of murder, possession of a bladed article, and conspiracy to commit robbery. Meanwhile, manslaughter and conspiracy to commit robbery were the charges that were brought against Cleon Brown, Surpreet Dillon, and Temidayo Ao, who were all found guilty of the charges. On March 3rd, 2023, each of them received their respective sentences. Although Ikem Afia was given a sentence of life in prison for the crime of murder, he was informed that he would be required to serve a minimum of 25 years. Further, he was found guilty of conspiring to commit robbery and received a sentence of 14 years in prison. However, he would be required to serve his initial term concurrently. Cleon Brown was given a total sentence of 11 years, which included 11 years for manslaughter and 9 years for conspiracy to commit robbery. Both sentences were ordered to run concurrently. Additionally, Surpreet Dillon was given a sentence of 10 years for manslaughter and 10 years for conspiracy to commit robbery to run concurrently, for a total of 10 years. Temidayo Ao was given a sentence of 7 years for manslaughter and 6 years for conspiracy to commit robbery to run concurrently, for a total of 7 years. Fake Rolex watches. Regretfully, it was revealed that the 2 Rolex watches Saul Murray shared on Instagram, which caught Dylan's eye, were fake. Why risk death by posting a fake Rolex online? Murray intended to sell fake Rolex watches and use the proceeds to purchase necessities for his recently moved-in apartment. 3 days after he moved into his new apartment, he was killed. Not only did Saul Murray have a criminal record, but he was also far from being a saint, having allegedly committed a similar robbery years before. However, he seemed genuinely trying to change his life since he mentioned wanting to become legally recognized and learn a trade. Sadly, Murray is survived by his 6 children. It's sad how the cold hands of death could take someone just after turning a new leaf, but still, I feel for every crime, there's a punishment. Oh yeah. What do you think about this case? Who do you blame? Was it the guy who posted the fake watches or the suspects? Leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Do you know what else is tragic? Check out our previous video, a terrible tragedy that is hard to believe.